Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Nina Rowan Heller because this is just for clients. And so everybody that gets to watch this video already knows who I am, but I always start by introducing myself, just in case you share the video with somebody. Um, we're going to talk about stress today. And this is one of my favorite topics. And right now, it seemed incredibly timely that we talk about stress because this is a situation, if we had to put together what makes things stressful, one is when the situation isn't something we've handled before. Two is if it's a lot, just the volume of what it is that you're handling makes you feel stress. And then three is that there are multiples of stress that make you feel stressful. So those situations, just by that kind of definition, we can totally understand why we're in a place now where we need a little more support about stress, because we have unpredictability, lots and lots of changes, and lots of impact of things that are happening in our personal and our business world. And so it's all that together. I wanted to read something that I thought was really funny that I got yesterday. And I don't know if you guys, because I stay off social media, but it came across and it said Corona Coaster. It's a noun. The ups and downs of a pandemic. One day you feel you're loving your bubble, you're doing your workouts, you're baking banana bread, going for long walks, binge watching a new series. And then the next minute you're crying, you're drinking gin for breakfast, and you're missing people you don't even know. So I thought the Corona Coaster was a nice little place to start, because that's exactly what people have been doing, is they've been feeling this Corona Coaster. So I want to address things that I think are super helpful when we have challenging moments in our life. And so the first one is to let go of the belief that you have to keep it all together. Okay, you do not have to keep it all together. You have to choose to feel your feelings and choose it in a way that works. Okay, it doesn't mean that it has to all be managed, not in front of people at a certain time. It just is what works for you. So if you think about, when we go back and talk about emotions, that emotions take about 90 seconds to cycle through. Okay, so if you are given a piece of information about something and it is, you feel the pressure, that power, it might hit you in the heart, it might feel like a burden, it might feel like you lose your momentum. You know, you're going along in your day and someone tells you this and you feel like you got knocked off center. Those moments are telling you, I have an emotion. So I need to take a moment to have the emotion. If you don't take the time to have the emotion, you try to gather it all up and to keep going on your day. And then another little something happens and you feel that plus what you felt before, because you didn't process that feeling. And so the word overwhelm, which is super common during this time, is actually a collection of those moments that you haven't felt. You feel overwhelmed. I would say it's like it's the whole emotional well is now overflowing. Okay, so if you're thinking or feeling, I feel overwhelmed, then I need to feel emotions. I need to go feel some emotions. Yesterday, Chris came running up the stairs and I said, how was your day? We were finishing up our days. And he said, I feel overwhelmed. And I looked at him and I said, I don't think you do. And he said, what? That's my feeling. I said, no, I don't think you feel overwhelmed. And we got to talking about it, and we have our little end of the day conversation oftentimes is a walk. And I said, I dove deeper about what you were feeling. I said, you didn't look overwhelmed. You didn't sound overwhelmed. You just chose the word overwhelmed. And that's because it's a very common word right now. That is a very common word. I said, what's the feeling you're having about tonight? And he said, I have stuff I don't want to do tonight. And I go, homework. And he goes, yes. And I go, you don't like homework. He goes, I hate homework. That's his feeling. He used the word overwhelmed because that's the common word that everybody's using. But he didn't even sound overwhelmed to me. So that's why I called him on it. I heard him later telling somebody, I told Nina today that because he was on a call and somebody said, I feel overwhelmed. And he said, I told Nina that today and she told me I was wrong. And I said, later, I didn't tell you were wrong. I just didn't think that was the emotion that you were having because it didn't seem like overwhelm. So overwhelm, we do know. We see it, there's a physical look to overwhelm. It is the straw that breaks the camel's back. You can see it where you actually, when you go to mention something to someone where you think, I don't know if I should say this to this person because this might be the thing that breaks them. You can see it's the pressure, it's all of that. So I want you to identify if you're feeling overwhelmed, you've got emotions that you need to feel. And it does not hurt to sit down and write them. Okay? Talking about emotions is great, but that's a luxury oftentimes. We don't have that luxury all the time to talk about our emotions. So if you're going through your day and someone just passed you a bunch of information that you might say, this is really not keeping me on my momentum, or you might even judge it as good or bad, that's the time you stop and you say, I'm going to write that down and I'm going to deal with that emotion when I take a few minutes, when I get to this place, when I'm off this call, when I finish this task, whatever it is. I'm not letting it go. I'm not suppressing it. I'm just going to write it down and then I'm going to come back to it. A lot of times if you hear this and it sounds very structured, we do this actually in our world. We've sort of created that. You'll pick up the phone and you'll call someone when it gets so bad. You're doing the same thing. You're like validating the emotion. You need to express it. You need to feel it. This is, if you don't have anybody to call immediately, you don't have a coworker next to you to vent to, you don't, because we're all at home, just write it down and then make sure you take the time. If we were to look at how this diagram goes, and I actually thought about doing a whiteboard and stuff, but my technical skills to do Zoom and do it on the computer simultaneously is not there. And so until I can get somebody to do that for me, I'm going to explain this to you. But if you look at the stress and you draw a little picture of yourself and you can make it a little stick picture, and you draw a little picture and you put stress with an arrow coming into your head. Okay. That stress could then mean it's money obligations, it's work obligations, it's family stuff, it's new information, it's scary information, it's all those things that you see go into your mind, okay? So that starts to create an energy, and it creates an energy where we start thinking, okay? And the thinking then is more energy. It's amplifying what just came in. So stress is pressure, then the thinking starts to create more cellular response, which is creating energy. And unless we do something with that, then we're holding it in our body. So this is where we get to that health piece, because when we're holding it in our body is saying, we need to do something with this. So that's when you start to say, maybe I felt my stomach flip. I got a little bit of indigestion or stomach pain. I started a headache. I got tension in my neck and shoulders. I felt exhausted. All of these things are happening because we took The energy of the information created mental energy, and then it went into our body and we didn't do anything with it. So as a health professional, people often think the reason I'm talking about exercise and movement and breathing is solely based on, yes, that creates great health. I want you to understand it's an engineering principle of your physical body. Your mind is creating energy from what it is influenced by outside of the world. Then you need to do something with it. So if you're experiencing headache, stomach ache, tightness, tension in the shoulders, joints are hurting, exhaustion, all of those things are signals that there's stuff happening in your body that you didn't release. The way our physical bodies were developed is that when we had stress, and everybody uses this example, and I'm going to continue to use it, and someday someone's going to go, I know exactly what you're talking about now. But if you had a dangerous situation, stress, and then mentally you went, I need to do something, and then you send that energy cellularly into your body, you actually, when you're in adrenal function, you end up sending all of this energy to your limbs to run and to take away from your organ systems that were doing things like digesting food and other stuff and regulating breathing, all that. And it says run. And so when we think about now, not just in this moment, in this time during the pandemic, but in general, we are given information that is stressful that says run, and nobody runs. You're given stressful information and you're sitting thinking about it. You aren't doing, so you don't release the energy. So the energy is in the body. And adrenaline, interestingly enough, I remember one time working with a client who was doing concealed gun training in Texas. And he had his whole staff of his house and stuff learning concealed gun training. And the guy who was training said, if you ever have to pull your gun for any reason, after the situation has ended, you need to throw up or pee. And everybody looked at him, and I was the only one that said, I totally know why this is. And he said, you know why that is? And I said, adrenaline. He said, yes. That anxiety that started, that stress that created adrenaline, got the body to say, run. And instead of running, you pulled a gun and you did something with your gun. So in military, they teach you things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in order to not have an adrenaline response when you are in a situation that is stressful. In our world, you may have as many of those kind of stressful situations that eventually you learn how to deal with it, but most of the time you learn at the cost of your health because you're not trained that way. So I want you to understand the pulling the gun, the run from the tiger, that kind of thing is the same exact energy that is created with stress in your world, in business, in the pandemic, in political arena. Those three right there are putting people in a place where they are pressure cookers. They are ready to run and do something, and people aren't. So if you understand this and you see, okay, that's what's going on, that you might understand that sometimes something that is not a hugely significant event can make you burst into tears. It can make you burst into tears. It can make you angry and yell. It can make you frustrated and cry. It can make you go into the fetal position. All of those things are because of a collection of events that you have not released. You didn't run. You didn't throw up or pee out the adrenaline. Okay. So in thinking that way, I've said this during the pandemic that my 4 mile walk a day, where I would walk 4 miles a day during this time, because I'm really read the gauge of, am I still having that stored energy? My 4 mile walk has increased to 6 to 7 miles a day. And I walk as far as I have time, or I come back and walk more. But most of the time, it is that I walk until I feel the difference, that I can feel I've released it, it's not there anymore. And you know what that feels like if you broke down and had a huge cry with somebody, and then you're like, I feel better. That gauge is the gauge I want you to learn how to read really well. I want you to learn how to read this gauge of, what's it feel like when that energy is banging around in my body versus when it's released and let go. And that released and let go, you don't feel overwhelmed. You feel like, I can handle this. I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm powerful. I am a creative individual that will come up with the solution. This too shall pass. I can get through this. All that stuff only comes from a time when you've been able to release. And so if you aren't feeling that, you need more release. You need more movement. You need more energy out so that you can actually get to that place where you feel solutions and you feel empowered and you don't feel the pressure. I want to check the time here. In closing for this part, before we get to questions, understanding our bodies have this function for a reason. And it is to get us to do big things during big events. So we have capacity. And that's something to know, that you have the capacity to do this. If you align the system well, you have better capacity. So if you feel the emotions and you address the feelings and release the energy, your capacity will increase. And we have the capacity to handle any of this. And you can go back through history and go back through and look at people who've been through horrendous things and they got through them. They were managing their emotions as they were going along and releasing in some way, shape, or form. So I've asked this documentary to be posted again on Netflix, and I would encourage anybody else to send Netflix the list because it's timely. They need to put it back on, which is The Lady in Number 6. The Lady in Number 6 is one of the best examples of how you can release these emotions in some way, and in a positive way, and in a way that worked for her. She was interviewed at one point. They did a documentary about her, and she was the oldest living Holocaust survivor. And she played the piano. And when you watch the documentary about her, you are blown away that somebody could go through everything that she did, not only survive, but have a great attitude and live a long life after, because her skills in adapting were that she used the piano, that she played. That was her way of dealing with it, and that was valued in the concentration camp, that she played the piano. It was not a supportive, creative environment, but she was allowed to play, and it's what got her through. So look at your life and see, what is my thing that will release this? Do I sing? Do I meditate? Do I do Tai Chi? Do I walk? Do I box? Are you an aggressive person that needs to punch things right now because there's things that feel like they need to be punched? Whatever it is, the non-productive ways are the yelling, the illness, the frustration, the depression, the anxiety, all of that. Those are all inward pushing pressure things that are trying to come out. So open up for questions, thoughts, comments. And I don't know, did I put you all on mute?
I
Okay, there you go. Good.
whatever, but I'm like, so many things are ringing, so many bells here. So when you said thinking creates cellular energy, and I was like, oh yeah, thinking tires you out more than movement sometimes, right? And I was like, well, you're saying if you don't do something with it, then it of course is going to stay in, what you've always said, walk just for energy, and for release, don't walk just to lose weight, but walk to get it off, the
Right.
mental off. And then when you were saying, I just got caught on my own dress. Hold on a second here. Then you talked about the adrenal at the end. The adrenaline has to come out somewhere, which I've heard and seen. And you always see like someone at the end of an emergency throwing up or something like that. But they flashback to Recharge Atlanta on the Porsche track. And I kept going back on the roller coaster because this is fun. And I hadn't had any fun or laughed or had any adrenaline rush in like years. And Chris was even in one of the cars, the Porsches, with me going around the track and stuff. And afterwards, Judy, I don't know if you went to that one, but like, there's still like a dozen or so people out here having fun. Everybody else went in for drinks and stuff. And I got off, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to bawl my eyes out. And I was over on this side of the building. I had to find this like little corner. I'm like, ah! And so what I do, I like, Nina, what the hell's wrong with me? I'm bawling my eyes out here at Recharge. I can't do this. People are going to find, like, trying to hide in a corner. I couldn't contain it. And she's like, it's okay. It's your adrenaline rush, and just let it out. I'm like, but I can't. I'm standing here at Recharge bawling my eyes out. And I was just having so much fun. I was having so much fun. And all of a sudden I was just losing it. But
yeah, and that adrenaline, it just needs to go somewhere. And
yeah, that for sure.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about the how to release it, let it go. How do you get centered and ungrounded and all that? And for me, it's the beach. Like, if I just drive a minute, like I even get to because you can like park and literally go down the stairs. It's so cool here. And it's like right there. And the minute I hear the ocean, it's like all the and BS, it just like goes away. And it's like, yeah, whatever, in the scheme of things, it's me and God and my family's okay, onward. I like the rest, just the minutia becomes minutia. And then even if it is important stuff, I'm just in a different place where I can handle it, because all the other stuff just, ugh.
When you just mentioned it too, I just want to point out that when you just said you go down the stairs, you're at the beach, you actually took a breath afterwards, which I know is what you do when you go down the stairs and go to the beach. So your body is programmed that even talking about it made you take a breath, which is great. And so that's to do the activities that you know work. Look in your schedule and find, are they in there? Am I swinging by the beach at the end of every day to release my day? There's also energetically, with ocean, mountains, nature, all that kind of stuff, it actually supports this happening. So it's a great thing to be in nature in some way. The tree hugging word is a real word that came from, if you're out in nature, there's actually an ion exchange and some things that are happening that you don't get while you're sitting in the office and in front of a computer. So Judy, what about you? Any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, thank you, Susan, because I was like, oh, I don't know what that place is or whatever. And when you said the beach, which I'm not close to that because that is my place, the water's my place, but I have a fountain on my patio. And when I can walk out and sit and look at my flowers in the fountain, that's my place. And I forget I forget the power of it. And Nina, a request for you, so I don't have to go looking for it. Would you send me this recording so I can send
Yes.
it over?
Yes, I will send it to everybody, all clients. So absolutely. And anything else? Was there anything else from today? Because I can stop recording in just a minute if you guys want to have closure about anything, but just anything that would be helpful. Questions, thoughts.
My computer.
Your computer.
I gotta jump off. Thank you so much. It was powerful.
All right. Thank you, Judy. Love you bunch. All right. I'm going to start.